Welcome, witches.
I'm Candi,
And I'm Jen.
and we're the Cornfield Coven. Today, we are going to, I'm veering from my ghosty ways, and I am going to be talking about, if this microphone talked back, that would be kind of weird, but
Well, I'm going to talk.
that's true.
Back,
that's true. But
I'm not going to tell the story because I don't know it.
You don't know it. And this is one I sprung last minute, because the other story I wanted to do, I felt deserved more attention than I was giving it. Not that this one doesn't deserve the same amount. But anyways, buckle up. Let's go for a ride down the Amish road. So today I'm going to be talking about Eli Stutzman. Eli was born into an Amish family, but he could never follow the rules of the Amish ways. He liked his freedom way too much. He liked to be a little shit.
He liked his freedom? Okay.
Freedom, yeah. He dreamed of more than what the Amish could provide for him, basically. He was, God, I'm going to butcher these, Schwarzentruber Amish. And when I was talking to somebody today, I called it Schwarzenegger Amish. And about 5 minutes later, she looked at me and she goes, I've never heard of Schwarzenegger Amish. And I'm like, huh? No, it's the Schwarzentruber. And she goes, you totally said Schwarzenegger. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. The Schwarzentruber Amish were more, no electricity, by the books, the bathing of once a week, the fine line. They were also the type that didn't allow, and it'll talk about this later on, but they didn't wear undergarments. Okay. Because elastic was considered a worldly item. Okay. And it was, so a lot of...
Oh my God, does the elastic ever go out of your underwear? That's like the worst thing ever. Like, if I didn't have elastic in my underwear, I wouldn't wear underwear.
I was going to say, or the twist, and you could feel it. Yeah. So if you're ever out and about, especially like in these areas, and you see an Amish family out, I've always felt bad because I'm always looking for the needles, because in all of their stuff, they have needle pins. And I'm like, how do these people not stab themselves? But I know the men, all of their stuff is buttoned. Mm-hmm. And I could never imagine having to pee really bad and then your stuff. Yeah. But anyways.
It's amazing, though, that they make those clothes. Like, you can see how high quality they are.
And they actually, there's a Amish store up on County Road X, past, like, Gays Mills. And there's usually a couple of ladies in the back or on the side, and they're making clothes. And they are I have to give it to them, they're very talented. They're simple clothing, but it's nice.
Yeah, everything they make is high quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is a very traditional sect.
So the Schwarzentrubers are very old, very traditional. Yes, because then there's also the older order Amish, and they are a little more relaxed.
Okay.
They can ride in the cars. They just can't drive them. They can have somebody call somebody for them, but they can't have the phone. Just stuff like that. Eli was born in September 28th, 1950. He was born in Apple Creek, Ohio, to parents Eli H. and Susan. Eli H., the dad, had been in a farming accident when he was 18 and lost a few fingers. Others started calling him One Hand Eli, and it stuck as a nickname.
So this is how we're going to tell all the Elis apart.
I couldn't do One Hand Eli, because the main Eli is I'm going to give you a spoiler. He's a freaky pedophile.
Oh. Okay.
So the whole one-handed Eli, even for his dad, who was a good guy, to me it sounded kind of pedophile-ish, and so I didn't want to disrespect the dad.
Gotcha.
Anyways. Eli E., which is our guy. So there's Eli Sr. and then Eli Jr.
Okay.
And then there's cousin Eli down the road. It's crazy. But Eli E. was the fourth of 13 children. He hated farm work, which there's a lot of. But what he did like to do is he liked to lie. He liked to pick on people. He would do pranks and lie about it and get other people in trouble. Family members said he learned to do this at a very young age, and he got really good at it.
That's concerning.
And throughout this whole thing, all he does is lie. He just lie. And he's charming, so people believe him. Eli got a lot of whippings from his dad, Eli Sr., for his lying, but Eli Jr. was a sneaky and rebellious kid. The more he was punished, the more he resisted and the more he acted out. He resisted his family control and the control of the Amish church, because the Amish church stepped in and was like, hey.
They stepped in and were like, you got to get control
Yep.
of this kid? Or like,
Yep.
Okay.
So since he was little, he was known as that kid in the community. Amish educate their children up until the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Amish believe they can go out and live in the Amish lifestyle and go out. And this opens them up for Rumspringa. And that's between the ages of 14 to 16. I thought Rumspringa was like 17, 18, 19. I didn't realize it started as early as 13, 14.
What is it? I know I've heard the term.
So Rumspringa is, there is a TV show on TLC, and it's like, it's something Amish.
My Amish Life or something. Yeah.
But they follow, like, at that age, that is when they decide, do I want to continue to be Amish, or do I want to?
Okay.
So they go out into the world and they try worldly clothing, English clothing. They can try alcohol. They can try whatever. And then they come back after their break and they decide,
I'm either going to commit to this lifestyle or I'm going to, shun?
Yep. Shun away from the English and the worldly ways. So it says this means just during this time is when teens act out a little more and aren't punished as much because of they're considered quote air quotes here exploring. They're out figuring things out and they're on their own. Parents are letting them learn by their mistakes and deciding if they want to leave the community and go live in the modern world. Rumspringa isn't quite like the TV shows we see though, but the kids do let loose and try the modern ways and things. About 90% of the youth return to the church and are baptized in. The other percentage are excommunicated, which means that they can no longer communicate or interact with their family or others in their community.
Yeah, because if you walk away, you walk away. So that happens for this sect between the ages of 14 and 16. So they've completed their education. They're considered adults in that world, and
they start courting,
so they need to make their decisions between 14 and 16. Now I'm just curious, I don't know if you know this, if you decide to leave, do they give you anything? Do you leave with the clothes on your back?
Clothes on your back and you leave.
Okay. And then if you come in, you said that like they start courting.
You get your family finds you land. I know out here, once a male turns 18, they are basically, they can court beforehand and find somebody. But at the age of 18, if they haven't found somebody, the family's like, hi, go. So, Eli's Rumspringa, he and his friends spent their time drinking beer and playing pranks, gambling. And when they were 16 years old, they were able to start attending gatherings on Sunday nights. So he went on his Rumspringa. He came back. He's like, I think I'm baptized. I'm going to do this. So he starts attending these gatherings on Sunday nights, and they're called singings. And it's a place where boys and girls from the surrounding communities, Amish communities, come and they meet. Now, when I was reading about this, all I kept thinking about was when I was in the 8th grade and I went to Catholic school, we would all go to dances on Saturday nights, and it would be, or Friday nights, I can't remember, but
keep you out of trouble.
It would keep you out of trouble, but oh my gosh, we would go, one would be at St. Mary's and one would be at St. Ignatius, and we'd come and we'd get to wear our street clothes, not our uniforms, and we'd dance, and I'm like, holy shit, I was at a singing. Gosh, but no. I did love those dances because it was the only time that, like, we could listen to, like, hip-hop music.
Yeah.
In the wild.
In the wild.
In the wild. So it was a place where boys and girls could meet and begin courtships. Surrounding communities attended. At one of these singings, Eli met a young girl named Ida. Ida is very prominent in this whole story. And when we get to the end, I felt for Ida. Anyways, Ida was born in 1951 on July 4th in Reedsburg, Ohio, which was about 20 miles away from Eli's community. Okay. Ida told her sister she met a boy named Eli and really liked him and thinks he felt the same way. The butterflies in her tummy. The couple started dating and talking and finding their way in their community. I never dug further, and I never asked anybody, and I guess I never noticed this. I mean, I know once you're courting, you can ride in a buggy with an Amish boy, and it has to be an open buggy. It can't be an enclosed buggy. Mm-hmm. Can they hold hands? Or are they like the Duggars, where it's side hugs? But Duggars can hold hands. I was curious, can they touch?
Let's not compare anyone to the Duggars.
I know.
That's not great. That's not Amishness. That's cultishness.
Oh.
I am not sure what the rules are, and it may differ in different communities too. I have no idea.
So, moving on to 1971, a couple years later, Eli becomes a teacher and starts teaching at the local school. Another thing I couldn't find out, and I could have dug more, but with my crazy day, if he didn't go past 8th grade, how did he get his teaching degree? Or was it because he could read, write?
Well, it was a teacher
teaching in Amish community.
In the community, mm-hmm. Then he passed whatever. It's not a public school like in the U.S. Department of Education.
School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it'd be whatever their certifications are.
Okay. Because I was like, I wonder. So it was just a one-room schoolhouse. He was only paid $140 a month. And in today's rates, that's $950
a month.
But he has room and board.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, if you're living a really simple lifestyle and you don't have rent or utilities or a car payment, a car insurance. Yeah.
Eli didn't stop his ways of being defiant and lying. He ended up moving out of his parents' house because they kept butting heads to another family up and across the road. Mose and Ada Kayams. I'm always going to say that wrong. In 1972, Eli collapsed on the stairs at the Kayams' house. The Amish religion doesn't restrict them from using modern medicine, but they really want you to use alternative approaches first. He went to an osteopath, which is someone who focuses on healing by manipulating the body's muscles and bones. By the time that the osteopath had gotten there to help Eli, he had been in bed for 24 hours already, and he was going in and out of consciousness, and the doctor recommended that he just stay in bed and rest some more, and was just like, oh, he'll be fine, not thinking much of it. Eli did this for a couple of weeks. The doctor returned and noticed there wasn't any improvement, and his nerves were shot and his muscles were already tensed up. He wasn't moving. So he's just So they brought in a foot reflexologist who uses the pressure points of the feet to heal certain parts of the body. And I've had this done a few times. I love it. I got really quiet there because I was just really savoring that memory. I loved it.
It was with a tone of reverence.
I loved it. But I hate people touching my feet. So I had a hard time. But when she got in there, it was amazing. I mean, she really helped me. But unfortunately for Eli, the reflexologist told Eli his feet were too sore for them to put the pressure needed on his pressure points, to make it work.
Okay.
So next they took Eli to a chiropractor, which helped relieve some pain and get him up and moving again. I like chiropractors.
Yeah.
I like your chiropractor. She seems very nice when she runs by and says hi.
Yes, she's amazing. And she cracks me like a bag of popcorn every 3 weeks.
I love it. It helps with everything from headaches to your tummy issues to just standing straight. But so by now Eli has lost his job teaching because he's been out for a few weeks. So now
that
he was...
seems like a violation of some sort, but again, not subject to those violations.
That FMLA does not go in there.
Yeah.
So by now he's helping over at the farm where he's staying at Mo and Aida's. Eli asked the Keams if he could start attending church with them, Mo and Aida Keams. He asked them if they could start attending church with them. It was not the same Amish religion. So he is now going to be going to the older Amish church and not the Schwarzentruber that he was raised. So
this one's a little bit more lenient.
Yes.
We talked about it at the beginning.
Yeah. So they were old order Amish. There we go. They lived a less strict lifestyle than their neighbors. This is also why Eli tended to be around the Keams more, too. Less strict, more relaxed. Eli got to add stuff to his buggy that he couldn't have before. Elder Eli H., the dad. Eli's father was not happy about his son's behavior in changing churches and feared he was suffering from a mental illness. And in May of 1972... Elder Eli spoke with the doctor, and the doctor suggested that they talk with the sheriff and have Eli involuntarily committed to the Fall Views Hospital about 40 miles away from Apple Creek. So because he's changed...
just on the ground... Do we know if it was just on the grounds of him leaving his church for another church?
He moved out of his parents' home under their thumb. He went to a different church, and... he got a job. He asked for a raise at work and stuff like... So Eli Jr., I
just wonder if his dad, knew that there was something more going on.
I wonder that, too.
But didn't want to say it. He's like, I'm going to say all of these reasons that will make sense in the Amish community anyway. But deep down, I have this bad feeling because I caught him torturing animals or something at midnight,
And... no family wants to have shame brought on them.
Yeah.
So he's keeping it hush. So Eli spent 3 days in the hospital before he was released. When Eli Jr. got out, this solidified he didn't want to be did not want to be part of the Schwarzentruber church anymore. And he was going to join the older Amish church. I don't know if his dad thought, I'm going to get him help. I'm going to commit him. That's going to bring him home. It would drive me away. I mean, if my parents... But Eli wasn't drinking. He wasn't doing drugs. And he wasn't committing crimes.
Yet.
Yet. He was just moving out of the house and moving churches. Today's parents would be pleased that their kids were doing these things.
Yeah.
He's 21. He asked for a raise at work, and he added some modern features to his buggy. Not really items you institutionalize your children for. So because he switched to the old order church, I don't know why I can't say that.
No, correctly. It's really hard.
Old order church, which he attended a couple of times before. He was hanging out with the non-Amish people, English friends, and seen driving cars. In the summer of 1972, he was excommunicated from the Schwarzentruber Church.
Okay.
He was already planning on leaving the church, and the fear of his family shunning him didn't bother him. He wanted freedom. Eli went to live with a New Order family, Amish family, and they were more progressive with technology. Liz and Leroy Stoltz helped him transition from Old Order to New Order Amish, and even helped him get non-Amish clothes. She ordered them from a JCPenney's catalog.
Aww.
Gotta love that. They also helped him get his driver's license and helped him get an older car to drive around. And I believe, too, in something I was reading about, she helped him with, like, online schooling. It wasn't online schooling, but now today, online schooling. But she helped him get a little more education on how to do things. No degree or anything, but just so he could get stuff going.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a smart guy because he was a teacher, but the Stoltz farm was known as a place for people who were leaving the Amish could go to for help. After Eli got settled into his new life, he met a lady named Lydia, and they went on a few dates. She was from a Mennonite colony church in the area. Ida was, so she was a little more free and loose. Ida was still in love, and this is the young girl he met at the singings. I think I like him, and I think he likes me. She was still in love with Eli, and still wrote him regularly, pleading with him to return to the church. Eli liked his freedom. He was not going back. He was not part of those strict rules of the church anymore, and he also loved the freedom to date other women. He also went on a date with Rebecca Yost.
Which, if she is a part of this very traditional Amish community, that, like, one interaction to her was probably, she's expecting
he looked
a
at me.
proposal.
Yeah.
Or something close to it.
Yeah. And who knows what he was telling her, really, behind closed doors. So he also went on a date, and he met this lady, Rebecca Yost, and they went on a date, and she ended up getting pregnant. In 1973, he ended up giving her money and for her to get an abortion. In 1973, Eli bought his friend a pair of red brief underwear.
His friend?
His guy friend.
Okay. That's just an interesting little
strange
tidbit.
It's a strange gift.
Right after.
Yeah. He got a girl pregnant, and then, like...
And this is, like, mind-bogglingly fast. Like, in 1972, he is a teacher in the strictest Amish sect.
And now he's...
And by
73, he's in the wild.
He's dating multiple women. He's driving cars. He's paying for abortions. And he likes to buy his friend underwear.
I couldn't imagine. So... His friend was like, this seems strange.
No, he's not part of any Amish.
This guy is ex-Amish also.
But they're both completely out at this point.
And so he asked the guy to try them on. And his friend said no, thank you, and said no. And he says, elastic underwear, elastic around the waist, was considered too worldly. I just couldn't imagine being that guy. So anyways, Eli tried to get his friend John to try them on, but John didn't want to. It was too risque, and he felt uncomfortable. Fast forward now to 1974, and Eli was involved with the Wayne County Sheriff Department. And this is where Eli starts to get kind of he was helping them bust a pot farm who was growing nearby. Eli called the grower and asked if he could buy some pot to help with his headaches. The guy sold it to him, and he went took the drugs right to the sheriff's office.
Dude, that's a dick move. It's just pot.
But also, was the grower just selling to anybody? Because wouldn't you be like, who are you? How do I know you're not going to rat me out? Blah,
I
blah, blah,
don't
blah,
know.
blah.
It was the 70s. He was probably high, man.
So, Eli took the drugs right to the sheriff. Not long after the sale, the grower was busted, and Eli was clearly known as the snitch. Duh.
Yeah.
Shortly after the bust, Eli claimed he was getting death threats. He quickly told the sheriff and the family at Stoltz Farms, where he was living. Everyone was keeping their eyes out for anyone suspicious. On November 19th, Ed Stoll found Eli lying in a puddle of blood in one of the barns. Eli said 2 men jumped him and hit him in the head with rocks. And he fought back, stabbed one of them with a pitchfork. But they got the better of him and stabbed him. He was rushed to the hospital, and he lost so much blood he almost died. The sheriff's department was blamed for using him and the bust and not giving him enough protection afterwards. It wasn't long after that people started...
Over pot?
Right?
I don't know, man. I smell something fishy.
Well, your nose is leading you to the right place, because not long after that, people started noticing Eli's story wasn't matching up or following what happened. His cuts didn't match the evidence, and the cuts on his arms were complete straight lines. When somebody's attacking you,
they're not
slashes.
Like, here, can you give me your arm so that I can...
Let me get my ruler out and do it straight. So they were like, wait a minute.
An X-Acto knife.
These aren't correct. They were like, one of the things I read, they were slowly done, not in haste.
Not quick slashes.
So not rushed and ragged if it was in an attack. They found evidence in the barn of a bloody razor. They investigated the threat letters behind and saw that the handwriting was the exact same type as Eli's. And the ones that were typed on a typewriter were used with the same ink. And they could tell on the, on a typewriter when it types and it has the ones that's been used, they could pull that out.
The ribbon.
So, and that was the typewriter that was in his room at the farm. Eventually, Eli confessed he did it all. After he was released from the hospital, he went back to the Stoltz farm to recover, and he would sometimes leave and be gone for days. One time he was...
Those people have infinite patience, because I think after a stunt like that, I would be like, you need to seek success elsewhere, sir.
Also, I didn't write this part down, but when he was attacked, he laid in the barn and waited for Mr. Schultz to come back from doing his hay. And normally when he did his hay runs at night, it only took him 30 minutes. It was like clockwork. But this day he had issues with his tractor and he was gone an hour. And when he came back, Eli literally is laying there on the ground and goes, "What took you so long?" Which then Mr. Schultz was like, as he looked back on it later on, he was like, if you were hurt and you were laying on the ground bleeding out, would you not... You'd be like, oh, you would just assume
your concept of time was messed up or something.
And I have to say, in all of the things that I was learning about Eli, the 2 things that always stuck out the most, 3 things. He had a lying problem. He never showed empathy for anybody else. Or if someone says, oh my gosh, do you know what happened to so-and-so? Oh. And he was hornier than hell.
Oh, well.
So, he goes back to the Stoltz to recover, and sometimes he would leave and be gone for days. One time when he was gone, Mrs. Stoltz was cleaning and changing sheets and found some magazines under his mattress. They were Men with Men magazines. She quickly disposed of them and never said anything about them, and they were never brought up.
Okay.
But did he not question where they went?
I'm sure he knew.
And do you think she kept them? I think she kept them.
He's leaving... Oh, no, I'm sure she...
Well...
burned them.
She's probably out there, with her cigarette. Oh my God! The devil's in our house!
Yeah, but she didn't... I don't know, she didn't say anything to him. I don't know.
Mm-mm. But if she said something...
I bet she disposed of them, and I bet he knew exactly what had happened. I'm sure she cleaned his room.
God, he
regularly,
he lived there rent-free. He helped them on the farm. He got his meals done, his laundry done. Damn. In February of 1975, Eli was fired from the Stoltz Farms. This is shortly after the magazines. And told everyone it was because he caught the owner stealing from a farm equipment store, and the owner fired him out of retaliation. So he always has an excuse.
Yeah.
And it's never his fault.
And he's continuing to be a snitch. Mm-hmm. And at this point, a lying snitch.
Yep. So then Eli, he rejoined the Amish community. Oh. He went back to the original Swartzentruber church, and he went in, confessed all his sins, sold his car and his non-Amish clothing, and took back his job as a teacher, and professed his undying devotional love to Ida, who had been waiting for him the whole time.
For like years.
Yeah.
Now, right? Okay.
So, in the state of Ohio, a blood test is required to get married. Back then.
Yes.
Amish didn't know what it was for, but thought it was God's way of a marriage going forward or not. So basically, if you pass the test, it's God's way of saying your blood matches each other. You may move forward. But really, it was a blood test for diseases like venereal diseases.
Yeah.
Eli's came back.
He had the clap, didn't he?
Eli and Ida took the test twice, and both times it came back negative. He had syphilis twice, so they failed him twice. Eli did something, and he went in to get the test, air quoting, fixed, air quote. He now had a positive test. He told Ida he drank some special herbal tea, and it fixed everything. It was just a fluke. Ida's dreams are coming true, and they could get married after all. Some people think he got someone to fix the results, but the Amish, they don't care, and they didn't pay much attention, and they went forth with the wedding. So on December 25th, 1975, they were married. Poor Ida. She's born on July 4th. She gets married December 25th. This woman shares her holidays with everything.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, she found out she was pregnant. But people often noticed how often Ida was left home alone, and she didn't know where he was. So people would say, "Where's Eli?" "I don't know." And he's gone for days. One time, after a night of drinking, Eli offered his friend, who was giving him a ride home, $25 for a blowjob. The friend was shocked, said no, and Eli goes, $60? That didn't get him a blowjob. It got him kicked out of the car.
Yeah. It would.
September 1976, Ida gives birth to their son, Daniel. Eli requested Daniel get complete vaccinations and be circumcised. Two things that weren't forbidden in their Amish religion, but it wasn't common for them to do.
Ida requested that? Or
Eli.
Eli requested that. Okay.
About 6 months later, they agreed to buy a 95-acre farm from Chris Swartzchumsnugger's brother. Wow, that's a name. The summer of 1977, the family moved to the farm to start their simple Amish life. Not long after Ida learned that she was pregnant again.
Oh, dear.
Eli did a fantastic job making everybody believe that he was glad to be back in this Amish community and building this Amish lifestyle. But inside was a different story. He longed for the freedom he once had outside of the church. In May, the Stutzmans went to the local bank. So Ida and Eli went to the bank to apply for a loan to pay for the farm. Eli had been making payments directly to Dan for the farm. It was not uncommon for Amish to secure a loan to pay their loans in full. The bank considered them low risk because the Amish have no bills.
Yeah.
So they have no reason to not pay their mortgage. So they always considered good credit. They basically paid for everything in cash. So it was banks like that. They also didn't have any other bills most of it. It's hard for them to pay. It's not hard for them to pay their mortgage. So Eli had been making payments directly to Dan. And Dan didn't know about the loan. And Ida didn't know about the loan. So she went with him to the bank, but she didn't know what they were fully doing. She thought that they were getting money to pay to Dan, but he wasn't using that money to pay Dan. He was using that money for extracurricular side activities with men.
Ida.
So,
girl.
He continued the payments to Dan and kept everyone in the dark. There was a storm on July 11th, 1977. The Stutzmans had a cousin staying with them who was also named Eli. So this is Eli number 2. Eli was staying with them to help on the farm. And so we have the main Eli. Then we have Eli Sr., the dad, one-arm Eli. And then the cousin Eli number 2. Eli number 2 was staying at the farm helping with the work. The night of the storm, Eli number 1 told Eli number 2 that he saw lightning hit the barn and to go help him find where it had struck. The two got onto the roof. They got a ladder, got onto the roof. Eli number 1 said, "Oh, I see where it is," and threw water on the roof. Eli number 2 later recalls he never really saw where the barn had any lightning strike or fire, or where it had been hit. That evening, they also had an appointment with an attorney to come and create a will for Ida and Eli. And basically, if Ida died, everything went to Eli. If Eli died, everything went to Ida. If they both died, everything went to Daniel. And the attorney had to take all the paperwork, all his notes that he collected, and he was going to take it back to his office, type it up, and then have them come back and sign it, and notarize it. After the attorney left, Eli and Ida went to bed. Eli, Ida, and Danny all slept in a bed on the main floor, and cousin Eli slept in the bed upstairs. Cousin Eli woke up at midnight, he says, because he saw a bright light. He looked outside and saw that the barn was on fire. Eli number 1 was outside moving farm equipment. So when Eli number 2 ran out there, Eli number 1 told Eli number 2 to run to the neighbors to get help. But when Eli number 2 was leaving, he thought he saw Ida laying on the ground and not moving, which he thought was odd. But he knew he needed to get help, so he just took off. So he took off towards the neighbors and had them, send help to get the fire and to get a doctor. Before Eli number 2 could get help, neighbors were already coming across the field.
Yeah.
And these were English neighbors. So they were already rushing over to help. Eli number 1 told neighbors his wife had been trapped in the barn unconscious and mentioned he thinks she had a heart attack, and the neighbors checked her pulse and couldn't find one. The fire department arrives and quickly starts working to put the fire out. When paramedics got to Ida, it was confirmed Ida had in fact died. Eli was asked by everyone, "What happened? What happened to her?" And Eli said she woke him up after the fire had started, and Eli told Ida to go get help. But when he went outside to move stuff, he found her on the ground. He thinks she had a heart attack. She had a weakened heart as a child, and it was just a childhood illness and something she's had since she was a child. Howard, the neighbor, and the fire chief noticed how Eli was more concerned about telling them about the lightning that hit the barn and not having a reaction that his wife was dead on the ground.
His very young and also pregnant wife?
Yep. His wife and the unborn child. So everyone just assumed Eli's story was true since the barn was on fire and there was so much smoke.
Why do we always assume? No.
Medical examiner said everything matched up with what she had been through. Ida was supposedly in the milk barn for a while before being pulled out. She had some burns on her hands and lacerations on her face. The examiners wondered how Ida had gotten these if she had fallen on her back. The cuts were bright red, which means she got them when she was still alive. So they kept asking him and he was like, "Oh no, I found her. I'm almost wondering if he smacked her upside the head. She passed out and died of smoke inhalation because she had it in her throat and nose and stuff.
But then he said, she woke me up and told me about the fire, and I told her to go get help, and instead of going to get help, because Ida doesn't seem like the brightest crayon in the box, but I don't think she ran into the fire-filled barn.
There's more. When Ida's family came to the funeral, they had asked, what happened? And Eli's story changed. A little. And now he has added, when she went to get for help, she stopped to get some things out of the barn first before getting help. Then he said when he found her, he attempted to do CPR on her for 15 to 20 minutes. And
on her face, and that's how it got bruised? Like, what?
And then he carried her out of the milk barn, which I'm trying to figure out.
So the barn's on fire, and he's like, I'll do the CPR here.
For 15 to 20 minutes.
On her face.
And so now she's not waking up, so I'm going to carry her out. Wouldn't you be exhausted? Like your arms?
And breathing and inhaling smoke and
so
many things.
The sheriff had gotten Eli's past history report about his lying, hence the blood and him trying to cut himself.
You know, you'd think after so many years, he would have gotten better at it.
Right? The sheriff got his report and shared it with the medical examiner. Did Ida really have a bad report or bad heart? Because there was no real medical evidence, because Amish, she didn't have that. So the case was closed, and a heart attack from smoke sucking in or whatever inhalation from the barn fire. Daniel was asleep in the house when all of the fire and the commotion was going on.
He's just a baby.
Mm-hmm. When neighbors were coming to help, someone ran in and took Daniel home to remain safe during the fire. So somebody there was smart. Eli was now a widow and a single father. But people in his community were very, very suspicious because they knew of his past. Over the next year, others came over to help with the Stutzman's farm. The Amish community donated the labor and the lumber to raise a new barn, which they got done in one day. Ida's sister stayed at the farm, and
the Amish are awesome.
I mean, they're fast.
A
day. Ida's sister came to stay at the farm, and some thought Eli would want to marry her, but Eli was not interested. He's gay. During this time, Ida's twin younger brothers stayed to help too. They're 15. And recall waking up one night to Eli rubbing his erect penis against them. They said they ignored him and he stopped. On the 1-year anniversary of Ida's death, Eli had another nervous breakdown, and the sheriff took Eli to the hospital where he stayed a week. Upon his return to the farm, he had medication but was still acting off and didn't regularly attend church. Eventually, Eli started attending a Mennonite church, and people started recognizing the signs that Eli was about to leave the church, the Amish church. And he did.
So he's like, he almost cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Like he needs the comfort and stability and like knows that that's good for him. And then he starts spiraling and he has to leave it. And I think that's maybe when he's doing the bad things. And then he cycles back to the church again.
I think he really did love Ida because he was supposed to love Ida. But I don't think his evil tendencies changed. And then he wasn't...
Gave her syphilis and killed her when she was pregnant.
Right?
That ain't love.
By the end of the year, he had sold all of the dairy cows and was ready to leave the Amish community again. He called his cousin Abe and asked if he and Danny could come visit Green Bay after the holiday. And Abe said yes. Eli let him also know that he had left the Amish church and had a new job training horses in Georgia. And that also with his new job, he wouldn't be able to take Danny to Georgia. Would Abe and his wife and family be able to keep Danny for a while? They said yes. Eli spent months in Georgia and some time in Florida before heading back to the farm. Once back at the farm, he updated the farm with electricity and got a car and started shaving and cut his hair and being clean cut. He wasn't the Amish look anymore. He also started buying, selling, and trading racehorses. Something he had gotten into trouble when he was still Amish, as they don't believe in gambling. He was drawn to the racing horses, and it was and he was really good at training the horses, and he liked the lifestyle of traveling, and he learned a lot about the gay scenes in the different locations he visited. By now, Eli wasn't keeping his sexuality a secret.
Okay, and what year are we in? Whereabouts?
We are in 77, I believe it is.
Okay.
78, I'm sorry. It's the Studio 54 era.
Yeah.
Eli wasn't keeping his sexuality a secret, and the farm was known as a gay scene hangout and barn parties. Eli rented out rooms in his house, and his neighbors started taking notice of this. His freedom from the Amish church gave him all the freedom to use electricity, train horses, travel, and see men. Eli also started using classified ads to search for romantic hookups. Do you remember the Craigslist?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Like the nightmare ones that they used to like reprint. Yeah.
Those. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, Eli spent most of his time going out with friends and having neighbors babysit Danny or bringing men back to his house that he met out at night. But everyone did say he was a good dad to Danny and made sure he always had what he needed, and Danny was always in bed asleep before they retreated back to the master bedroom. In early 1992, Eli sold the farm for $200,000 and moved to Colorado. The local Amish were upset because he moved and sold off the land, and it was less. He sold it to the English, and it's less land in the Amish hands.
Yeah.
Eli had met a man in Durango, Colorado, that had a ranch and a $15,000 stallion horse, and Eli was smitten. This was his man. Eli told this man that he was an ex-Amish and that he was a widow and a single father, and that being ex-Amish and in the community, they were making life hard for him and his son Danny, and they wanted to move. They didn't feel comfortable. So the rancher said, move to Durango, Colorado. The other gentleman, he had this $15,000 racehorse, but he had a smaller property. So Eli convinced the gentleman to sell his smaller farm, and with his property, Eli's property and the rancher's property, they can buy a bigger ranch, nicer ranch. So the couple plus Danny lived together, but only for 1 year. The rancher said Eli was more into the gay scene in the area and less into relationships. The rancher became more concerned when Eli started bringing Danny to parties and letting him run around and pinch other men in the butt. Oh. No one reported this because no one wanted to speak up as to why they were also at these gay orgy parties themselves.
Don't let a child be abused, because I can't imagine the consequences they would have faced for that, but you can't stand by and let a child be abused like that. Mm-mm.
In 1983, the rancher and Eli had another young man move in. They all seemed to get along. Eli had gone back to putting classified ads in the paper and looking for hookups. It was the early 80s, and Eli was a homosexual on a journey and hooked up with anyone and everyone and wasn't using protection. He was quoted saying, "I'm not effing in no sock." During this time, he would also tell everyone about his dead wife. The stories were always a little different and a little more dramatic and a little more.
Because he could make up whatever he wanted, and everybody's going to believe him. Right? Apparently.
In February, the rancher got enough courage to leave Eli. The rancher was afraid Eli might tell everyone about his sexuality because in the rodeo circuit, he was still kind of closeted. But he wanted out, and so it was worth the risk. Eli gladly bought his $5,000 portion of the ranch and $5,000 worth of farming equipment. The longer Eli had freedom, the more his sex drive increased. He would...
A cat just got the zoomies. Excuse our chuckles.
Not the sex drive, but... he would bring groups back to the house for orgies. He would be at clubs and go outside with men and have sex in the parking lots of the bars. And of course,
Wait, he had orgies at his house?
At his house.
With Danny there?
Mm-hmm. And then he would also go to clubs and bars and have sex in the parking lot and the bathrooms. And of course, he was still meeting men off the classified ads and having them come to the house. In October, he attended a Halloween party dressed as an Amish man, and people said he had too much fun dressed as an Amish man, pulling down his pants and having sex with people in public.
Goodness.
In November, Eli and Danny left Colorado for Texas to move in with a guy Eli had met off a Craigslist ad, and he started seeing. But it wasn't long before they called it quits. Eli got his own place in Austin. There was a good gay community, and he started a construction company there where he hired basically only gay men.
This guy just it's like a cat, man. He lands on his feet everywhere he goes. And he does not seem like a very nice person.
So, I'm going to introduce another guy, and you're going to be like, what the? So, Glenn Pritchett and Sandy Turner. They're two troubled teens who couldn't stay out of trouble. They ran away from home, and they just were on a bad track. Sandy calls her mom, and her mom's like, you need to come home. We need to get clean. And she says, Mom, I'll come home if you let Glenn and I get married. Her mom said, just come home. So Glenn and Sandy move home. They're 16 years old, and they get married. They get cleaned up. They do what her mom said. They get cleaned up, and she ends up getting pregnant, and they have a daughter and then a son. But during this, Glenn enrolled in the Coast Guard. And after he served his time, they went back to Montana. Glenn was really depressed after the Coast Guard, and he started drinking a lot and became an alcoholic. Sandy couldn't take it anymore, filed for divorce because she's clean. She's got kids she's looking after. She's like, we have to stay focused. And so she filed for divorce. Glenn worked at a restaurant, and he was constantly getting in trouble because he was harassing Sandy, calling her, showing up. Just, don't forget about me. Police told him, you have to seriously leave her alone. Dude, you've got to move on. You've got to take a break. You've got to do something. Glenn thought it was a good idea to get out of town, and he went to visit family. He eventually ended up in Austin, Texas. Glenn took up a construction job. Working for Eli.
Yeah.
So that was why I kind of gave you a quick background on Eli, just because he was a good guy, but he had a troubled past. He knew how to Glenn. He knew how to fall down the rabbit hole, and
right.
So Glenn was the only man in the crew who was not gay. Eli rented a room to Glenn and another room to another guy. They all became really close friends, and they would go out to the bars. Even though he was straight, he didn't mind going to the gay bars. He was hanging out with his friends. His ex-wife did say it was kind of interesting that he would go or work for a gay man because he wasn't. But deep down, Glenn just wanted to be with his wife. But she had moved on and was about to be remarried. And he wasn't needed anymore. And he was depressed, angry. So yeah, he was going out drinking. So anyways, moved to January 1985. And that was the last time Sandy had heard from Glenn, his ex-wife. In May of 1985, a body was found on the side of the road in a ditch on Clifton Bluff Road in Pilot Knob, just south of Austin. Days earlier, Raymond Pike noticed a smell, but just thought it was a dead animal. A few more days later, the smell got worse and worse, and Raymond pulled over and just thought he would find a dead calf. But what he found in the ditch was a male decaying body covered in maggots.
Oh, no.
He called the sheriff's office and met them at the crime scene to show him the body. The man in the ditch had been shot in the back of the head, and it was only wearing cut-off shorts that had been cut off and shoved to his ankles. During the autopsy, the maggot activity that had been going on was able to show the doctors he had been dead for about 4 to 5 weeks, and they were able to pull a .22 caliber bullet from his head, and they were able to do a
dental record.
Thank you. Yep. And it showed he was missing compared to dental. Anyways, and it showed he was missing his appendix. They had a difficult time identifying the body as it didn't match anyone in the missing person system. People called in, but as soon as they heard, about the appendix or appendectomy, they'd say, that's not my missing person. Fingerprints didn't pull anybody locally, so they were sent to the FBI, and that would take time. In June, another month later, a match had been made when they ran it against... He had to take his fingerprints for the Coast Guard, so that popped up. The police also learned that Glenn had been questioned about activity in a parking lot brawl the previous November, and he was with a man named Eli Stutzman, and said they lived at the same address on Baton Road. So police headed over there. Let's go talk to Eli. So on June 15th, Eli answered the door, and he didn't seem surprised they were there looking for Glenn, and said he hadn't seen him in weeks. He had a family emergency back in Montana and headed there. Eli had dropped him off at the bus station. As far as Eli knew, Glenn would be back after he had taken care of some of this business. The detective asked Eli if he had any guns, and Eli said yes. He had a .22 rifle and a 16-gauge shotgun. Then he is being asked about, when he was asked about his wife, no remorse, no sadness. He's asking about his friend. They're like, hey, do you know where he could be? No remorse, no nothing. Not, oh my God, did you find something? Did you hear something? Nothing.
Because your first question should be like, why are you asking me? Mm-hmm. I really thought he was in Montana. Yeah. I haven't heard from him.
Let's call his wife.
Now I'm worried.
So at this point, they moved the interview to the police station since he had the same caliber gun Glenn was killed with. Plus, police were shocked how much Eli was calm about his friend and employee missing. No questions asked. And so police asked Eli the timeline of Glenn and Eli's friendship and asked Eli to take a polygraph test. Eli said, sure, why not? They had nothing to hold him, so they let him go. The police asked people who knew Glenn questions about him and also about him and Eli, their connection, what their life was like. One friend said to the police the same story Eli told the police about the bus station drop-off, but the timeline was different. And they said that he was dropped off on the 5th, and when the body was found just a week later. But the body was way more decomposed, so someone's story was a lie. Mark Taylor was Eli's neighbor. He told the police he heard Glenn and Eli arguing often, and the last time he heard them argue was in April, and he never saw Glenn again after that. The neighbor also said Eli was asking him questions like, can a bullet be traced back to a certain guy? Can a bullet hold fingerprints? Can they tell if a bullet came from a certain gun?
Why didn't this neighbor...
And this kind of weirded the neighbor out, and Eli kept a low profile but kept acting weird. Eli packed up and fled the area. No one heard from Eli or Danny, not his friends or his employees.
Why didn't you go to the police and be like, hey, I don't know that something nefarious is going on here, but just listen. Like, has anybody else seen this guy? You might want to call his wife. I don't know.
So Eli spent his whole life lying. His parents had said he started at a young age and he was good at it and he got away with it. June 16th, 1985.
That's the thing though, he's not good at it. Like every lie he's told, I'm like, that's preposterous, sir.
He sucks, and people keep just going, ugh, and not wanting to be part of it.
Yeah, so they just, ugh.
So Eli, back in 85, there's the other gentleman who was living at the house with him and Glenn. He asked that roommate for some luggage, and the roommate asked him why he was fleeing when there was an investigation going on for Glenn, and Eli said his lawyer told him to. Which the roommate thought was weird, but...
That's preposterous, right? Sir.
Then wanted to know where Danny was, which Eli said, out with friends. The roommate drove Eli to an empty parking lot and walked away with his suitcases filled with clothes. Eli's truck wasn't anywhere in the lot, and there was no one there waiting to pick him up. Later on, this kept bugging the roommate. And the roommate went into Danny's room to see if there was any of his clothes had been packed or taken, and they were all still there. Eli spent time in New Mexico with friends before traveling to Wyoming. This is where he left guardianship of Danny. So Danny was out with friends, but...
And Eli did take him when he
but
fled.
Didn't take any clothes. Eli told his friends that his coworker had been murdered and he was going to go help find the killer and didn't want to take Danny with him because it was unsafe. They took guardianship of Danny.
That's preposterous, sir.
Surprise, surprise, he was never really going to go track down a killer. Just bopping around, visiting friends, and talking to anybody who would listen to him about the crime, and said whoever killed Glenn used Eli's .22 gun, and adding more to the story that was completely unbelievable and made people wonder more. And friends were later saying they thought he was the killer. But yet,
that's more than just lying for the sake of lying. He's basking in that.
But
he wants to discuss it.
Nobody called it in. Yeah. And they were like, now I felt he was the killer. It's like, why didn't you? So Eli gets calls and mails from strange people and believe Eli was still meeting people off classified ads and bringing them to their friend's house, to where he was staying. So later, Eli traveled back to Ohio and got a new driver's license and a social security card by using the same name, but different birth date and different middle initial. Because remember, there's a lot of Eli's.
Eli E.
Yep.
And his dad was H.
And I don't know his cousin's middle name.
2.
Yeah, he's going to be 2. Then he moved to New Mexico to work on a farm in Aztec. In 1985, Danny was dropped off with Eli in hopes that Danny would stay. But Eli said that the farm...
85?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was hoping he would stay. But Eli told... told his friend, or his cousin, Abe, it wasn't a good place for Danny, that the farmer who owned the place was an alcoholic and mean. And the whole time Eli was living child-free, Eli was writing to Ida's family and told them he had Danny and they were having a great time. And he was even forging letters from Danny to them.
That's fucked up in a whole different way from anything else we've seen so far.
Eli was only 40 minutes from his old stomping grounds and went to visit friends. Eventually, Eli got fired from the farm in New Mexico for inappropriate behavior. He was walking around naked, and one man said that when Danny was there visiting, Eli would touch himself in front of Danny. Eli moved to a different farm and started working for a man who had a lot of guns. One day, a gentleman saw a body out in front of a transmission shop, and it ended up being the gentleman who owned the transmission shop, and he was bludgeoned to death. Then another man who worked at the liquor store ended up dead, and money was missing from the till. Eli had bought a car, put some money down, and then later on that same day went back and put the rest of the money down for the car and took the car. It was the same amount, later on they realized, as the money stolen from the liquor store. Eli's roommate noticed also he had a couple of guns missing, and Eli said, "I'm a good Amish man. We don't steal." And the roommate believed him.
That's preposterous, sir.
A little bit later that day, Eli pawned the guns for cash. He headed towards Wyoming to see Danny, but instead decided to meet up with a man he met on a classified ad and let him know he didn't have Danny, that Danny was visiting with family. A man named Chuck was out pheasant hunting and wasn't having any luck with the pheasants, but it had been snowing, so he saw some color and something blue in the field. When he got closer, he noticed it was the coat that belonged to a child. He called the sheriff. The sheriff had picked up the coroner on the way out to the crime scene. The skin on the child's face was missing and bruising on his forehead and neck. When investigators arrived, no evidence was found that the body... There was no evidence. Nothing. And it was like the body fell from the sky.
Without a face?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have a face.
No. The boy before death was in good health. So when they did the autopsy, the boy before his death was in good health. The missing skin on his face was from wild animals. The coroner noticed that the skull and saw no damage, which confused them. The bruising was due to the cold and frozen weather. It was determined he either froze to death or suffocated because it was so cold he would have ran out of air fast. A few days later, tips started coming in after a sketch of, they named him a Little Boy Blue, was being passed around and nobody knew who he was. Eli kept telling wild stories of how he lost his farm, his coworker was murdered, and his son was with family. And those he was sexual with, he even told him he was HIV free, which he wasn't. Then, one day, he finally started telling people that Danny had died in a car accident. He claimed the Barlows were in a car accident and Danny died from extreme head trauma. It wasn't until 1986 that he told family that Danny had died. But letters had been returned, and that's why they missed the funeral. Family didn't believe them. They sought out looking for Danny's tombstone and didn't find one. So, a couple of the elder family members got onto a bus and went to Wyoming to find the Barlows, or at least to report on the Barlows accident. The local police said there was no record of an accident or death around that time. The police called in Dean and Margot Barlow, the Barlows. Amos had the Barlows read the letter to Eli that Eli had sent them, and all were confused. In 1987, the December edition of the Reader's Digest magazine had a story of Little Boy Blue, the boy who was found 2 years earlier. So he's been a John Doe for 2 years. The Barlows saw this and the picture sketch of the boy. They didn't want to believe it and didn't think Eli would do such a thing. But Margie wrote a letter to the Chester police with a picture of Danny and they knew right away that this was Little Boy Blue. Police now needed to find Eli. They learned he had two identities. So he had
left him in Wyoming.
Oh, wait till you hear why.
And then he came back and got him? Mm-mm. Okay.
Yes. I mean, so they found out he had two identities, his wife's death, and how bodies just seemed to follow him wherever he had left. He lost the farm and the property and so it went back to the previous owner, who just happened to have Eli's current address. In an old trailer park, a police located Eli's truck, and they waited it out, and they got him that next morning. So, on December 14th, 1987, Eli was arrested and charged with felony child abuse. When Eli was arrested, no pictures of Danny were on him, and he had just had his fake ID. When Eli was questioned about his wife's death, Eli gave the same story. Barn fire, wife died, getting milk pails. Then asked about Glenn. He said, heard an argument in his living room and a gunshot. Then everybody disappeared. Why did he never tell this to the police? He didn't know who was exactly there. Or the drop-off of the bus station. Why would you make that story up? Why would you say that? Or why he left Austin and ran. Eli had no answers. Then they asked about Danny. Eli said Danny was sick when he picked him up from the Barlows. They had stopped at a truck stop and Danny didn't eat much. He was just really lethargic. He changed Danny into blue PJs. And some point later, as they were driving down the road, he looked into the back seat and noticed Danny's eyes rolled back into his head. Eli decided to pull over and put Danny someplace where God could find him.
That's fucking preposterous, sir.
But in all realness, no one could find Danny. He was in the middle of nowhere. Why not a hospital or a police station or a fire station? Eli was on his way to Salina to stay with a man he met through an ad.
Don't want a kid with you when you're doing that.
So he placed Danny's body on the side of the road hours before he met that man. Eli also tested positive for HIV, so he was killing people.
He's spreading it
as he's
knowingly.
Yep.
Yep.
Nebraska is where he was extradited to. He was asked for hair gel so he could look nice in court. There was no actual proof he killed Danny. So they let him let him have the plea of that he abandoned a body of a child, and he was only sentenced to 18 months behind bars. After he was released from the 18 months behind bars, they sent him to Texas for the death of Glenn Pratchett. He got 40 years and was found guilty. Family and friends kept writing him. Find God, come back to the Amish, find a way. Tyler and Dennis Slaughter, the transmission shop and the liquor store guy, are two murders they're still trying to seek justice for, that he did it. In 2002, Eli was released from prison, found an apartment, and he makes leather goods that he learned how to do, like purses and Bible covers that he learned how to do in prison. Eli told his new neighbors he did time for drugs, that they tried to say he killed somebody, and they were trying to put a murder charge on him, but it wasn't true. He told some people he was a widower, or that his son lived with Ida's family because he was ex-Amish and kicked out of the community. He made it another 5 years. He smoked crack. And then one day, it was done. The landlord confronted him about rent. He promised he would pay in a week. He shut the door to the landlord. And then that next day, he slit his wrists, curled up with a comforter, and watched TV till he died. People noticed him missing and called a welfare check on him, and they found him dead. He was never charged with Ida's death or the death of the unborn baby.
Or the liquor store owner and the transmission shop owner.
So...
And this is odd, but I'm really annoyed that he had a comforter when he died. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to die in comfort.
And he curled up and fell asleep watching TV with his comforter.
That was awful.
A lot of this, I watched a couple of YouTube videos, but also the book Abandoned Prayers by Greg Olson. I love Greg Olson. Was about this, and there is another book put out about this too, but I'm
really surprised. I've never heard of this case. I don't think I have heard of Little Boy Blue. I know that I have heard of that, but I don't.
Years ago, Jen at work told me about this because I was talking about Greg Olson, and she was like, there's this book about Amish, and I was like, no, and because I was so fascinated with Amish. And I just never really, I owned it, and then I gave it away, and so then when I started going, like I was going down the rabbit hole for this, I was like, holy crap, it's coming full circle.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me how when you force people to live a certain way, how they rebel. But also...
But he was given chance after chance after chance. It really wasn't, yes, it was forced on him, but then they gave him a chance at quite a young age to say, if, go try this out, and if it's not for you.
But also...
And every time, all the horrible things he did, and however many times he left the church, they were still there for him, saying... We will take you back. We will forgive you. We are here for you.
Can you imagine, though, at the end, and I just kind of sat there and was, like, comprehending what I read, what I heard, what I wrote. Danny, if he didn't die, could you imagine how he would act if he's running around at orgies smacking people's butts?
Well, I mean...
But also he thinks that's normal.
Well... He went through significant trauma.
But also, if the one rancher said Eli was touching himself in front of his son, so was he doing other things to his son that people just didn't catch?
I think very probably. But I mean, all kinds of people go through massive trauma, and
I want to know if Rebecca ever had the abortion, because it just kind of ends.
Yeah.
I'm curious if, I don't know. It's just, I feel bad for Ida was living her best life, her best Amish life. She got the man of her dreams, and he killed her and her baby. But she had no justice. It was like, oh, it's another Amish person. Just, I don't know. But then again, neither did Dennis or the transmission guy.
And like, he was known as the liar of the community, and there were all kinds of inconsistencies. So
the worst liar.
His lies were so bad. Like, well, he was really good at it. No, bro, he wasn't. Like, at all.
So his family, Eli's family and Ida's family, are still trying to get justice for Ida and the baby.
Good. Well, I mean, he's dead, so.
Yeah. But shame on him. I mean.
Shame!
Yeah. So that was our story.
So, anyway.
There's Amish. Check. Oh, well, we appreciate you listening to that very long episode. I think that's my longest episode.
That is your longest episode.
Oh.
It was a good one, though. I'm glad you didn't skimp on the details. It was good.
I did kind of rush the ending because I was like, as soon as I found out he only got 18 months for Danny, I was pissed.
Yeah.
That
made me real mad.
And then the fact that the transmission gentleman and Dennis liquor store, he didn't get charged for them. But I mean, he did get 40 years for Glenn.
But he didn't
serve it all.
Yeah, he didn't serve early. What, half of it? Ridiculous.
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, a case that we probably won't cover because it's outside of the Midwest, but Rex Heuermann was sentenced today. The Gilgo Beach killer. So, thank God. He got 4 sentences of life without parole and 4 sentences of 25 to life. All 8 sentences to be served consecutively, not concurrently. So if he lives to be 1,000, he will still not get out of there. And thank God there is, I don't know if justice is even the right word, but something for those families. Mm-hmm. Because serial killers target sex workers because they think nobody cares. You know, the whole less dead thing.
And I was saying a lot of them have trauma from abuse from their mother being a sex worker or somebody.
Well, yeah, that or they just choose to be a sex worker. Like, I don't. If sex work was legal, it wouldn't be so dangerous.
Yep. Well, look at it Amsterdam, the red light district.
Yeah. See. Yeah. So anyway, that. They did get some really great resources eventually assigned to the case that were able to put it together and able to get justice for these families. So super thankful for that. It took too long. And sometimes these things do, but I think there were reasons it took too long. I mean, I was talking to my father-in-law before I came over here. I'm like, this guy is a monster. Like, he is 6'7", 330 pounds. Like, he's a huge dude. And the roommates of one of the girls saw him and was like, I will not mistakenly identify this guy. Like, he's very unique. He's a giant.
That's like talking about Andre the Giant or Shaquille O'Neal. It's they're very.
You're not gonna mistake him for somebody else. Yeah. No. So, Rotten Hell, Rex Heuermann. But yeah, so I just thought I'd throw that on at the end. But we have gone on for a long time, so we should probably wrap it up.
Let people go.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget,
do all the things on the social medias.
Yeah, do all the social. Share us with your friends. We have an idea for another prize for an upcoming giveaway. So make sure you share. Send us your suggestion for stories or to talk about. We want to know things. So message us. Tell us what you want to hear. most of all, coming up in October, we're going to do a meet and greet at a Fall Fest in McGregor, Iowa. We'll also be in the Halloween parade. So plan to come to McGregor, Iowa, or...
just spend all of October here.
Yeah.
You can hide from the dolls with me.
I have to tell you what we're doing with the dolls.
No!
Or, like, flock your yard, but it's with dolls.
Not my yard.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, Jen will kill me. But anyways, so thank you for listening. Thank you for spending this Wednesday with us, and have a great day.
Bye, witches.
Bye.